after I think '96, you didn't hear about them anymore. They disappeared, and a lot of people didn't know what happened to them. Then all of a sudden, I see this album come out, and I'm like, oh, he's still around. So
Yep.
I would love to hear more about that.
when when Island put out their two or three albums, produced the first two were produced by Jack Ruby, who
Yep.
is one of my top producers. You know, Burning Spear and all of that. Um, when I saw this album come out, it was in a period where dancehall had taken over, and it was pure Steely and Clevie and Admiral Bailey, and I hated it. Um, I've changed my mind since then, but when it came out, I hated it. But
Right.
and then you had these albums by Lincoln Chain, by Foundation, by a couple of others that came out at that time, and Sly and Robbie were playing on it. Cat Coor was involved, and I thought, wow, cool. You know, when you go to Tower Records and you see the list of artists and you see it's Island. You know, I trusted Island, and so I fell in love with their first album, Flames. Yeah, bad, good songs, good instruments. I mean, great mix, perfect.
Hmm.
Then a second one came, uh, same vein, perfect. A third one came a little later, produced by Clive Hunt, which sounded very good too. So yeah, I you know, and one night I saw either a video on YouTube of Keith Foundation doing a song, and there was a an American guy called Rob Dulcimania who was bigging this song, and he seemed to be involved. So I emailed him or sent a comment and said Guillaume Bougard, Taboo, lovely, blah, blah, etc. And he replied to me and he said, "Well, I'm not involved with him, but I can get you in touch with him." I said, "Well, the man is still alive," and so forth. I was like,
Hmm.
"Wow, cool." And so I got in touch with them, or a guy who is his manager. I got in touch and I said, "Well, what's this thing? You mean you're recording music again?" And yeah, we did a single. I said, "Would you like to do an album?" And they said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" And we did the paperwork and so forth. And I called Robbie and I said, "All right, Foundation, remember? Yeah, man, bad." And I said, "Well, you were part of uh, the Black Disciples for Jack Ruby, and Jack Ruby had produced the Foundations album. So in my head, I thought Jack Ruby, Black Disciples Foundation, and Black Disciple. What was it? I mean, it was 15 guys playing, but
Yeah.
the nucleus was Horsemouth on drums, Robbie on bass, China on guitar. And anyway, so I called Robbie and said, "Well, let's do this not with Sly, but let's because he'd done the album with Sly back in the '80s. So I thought, let's do something different. Let's try and put back together the nucleus of the Black Disciples and have a different sound, you know, than Sly and Robbie. Because Horsemouth is a great drummer, but it doesn't sound like Sly.
Hmm.
And we had done a couple of tracks a few weeks before that with that formation. So it was Robbie, Horsemouth, China, and Robbie Lynn on keyboard. And we had done something for Bunny and Scully.
Oh.
Um, yeah, but Bunny and Scully were more than 80 something years old, and their voices are shot. So and they were both 1 year away from dying anyway, so they weren't in great shape.
Yeah.
But the music was fantastic. So I thought if I had a good singer with that formation, that would be awesome. So when Keith Foundation popped up, I thought let's put him, and it makes sense because Jack Ruby, blah blah blah, as I explained before. So we put them in the studio. We filmed everything, and he came up with how many songs is that? 8 or 7. We didn't have a lot of money and time, and but what I wanted was to do long versions, disco mixes, So we didn't need that many songs anyway. So they recorded, and I mixed the album with Bravo in Paris, downstairs in my apartment with the windows open, no soundproofing, just Bondulu style. Oh boy, the neighbors complained. I mean, they called the cops, and it was pandemonium. But we came up with a pretty tough sounding album, and the songs are good. The rhythms are great. I love those rhythms, and the artwork is pretty cool. Nice photo of the guy, black and white.
Hmm.
The face looks red, and with white and red lettering to make it really pong. And yeah, I mean, it hasn't sold a lot of copies. You know, uh, it's quite disappointing, but I don't care. I mean, it's a nice sounding album, and it's one item on the bucket list.
Hmm.
For having Robbie and Horsemouth work. We were going to do something with the aggravators also.
Oh,
Santa, Robbie, Robbie Lynn, Gina, and well, it never come to pass because it will never. And we were going to do and something that hasn't been done in reggae is have two drummers, Santa and Sly, at the same time. Two drummers, because when we were in Los Angeles with BT, with Sly and Robbie, Santa came to spend the day with us because he lives in the area, and we trashed out ideas. How about doing this? Or how about doing something crazy? Two drummers, yeah, 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 yeah. And they and it's like you want to be a fly on the wall when those two talks together because they start imagining what it would sound like, and I do this, and you do, and it's like, those are moments of beauty, just hearing them talk together, and well, it will take place in another life, I guess, but stuff like that would be nice, you know. But the thing is, now that Robbie is gone, I have kind of lost interest in producing new stuff
yeah.
because ain't nobody like Robbie, and the vibe that I felt in the studio and that we had, I mean, cannot be, I mean, there are some great bass players in Jamaica, and Boris Gardner comes to mind. I mean, he's a fantastic bass player, and he would be one of the few I would love to record with Sly, you know. But at the same time, I'm saying to myself, well, first of all, you've done it already with Sly and Robbie live in the studio, and Sly has some really interesting new stuff. So why not go full tilt on you know m- music for the 21st, 22nd, 23rd, 24th century? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's what Sly is doing. I mean, he's crafting beats that are just amazing, and I'm having a British rapper drop some lyrics on one of the rhythms, because it it's where dancehall meets rap meets science fiction, and that's that. I'm more interested in that new stuff.